Welcome to France 24, the news service of France Today and Central Milan for Wednesday the 13th of May 2026 on francetoday.com, in podcast form, via an AI chatbot, and on the medium wave band at 1575 kHz. From Paris, I am Rachel Costa. Hantavirus. Macron. Situation under control. Patient in intensive care. Kylian Mbappé worried about the national rally. A masterful reply from Jordan Bardella. The PN in the crosshairs. The EU surveillance architecture is completed. Weather in Milan and Paris. Direct. Hantavirus. The situation is under control in France, according to Emmanuel Macron, a French woman still hospitalized in intensive care in a critical condition. The Minister of Health must hold a video conference this morning with representatives of the unions and the professional orders of medical and pharmaceutical hospital staff. What you need to know. President Emmanuel Macron, speaking from Nairobi, said that the hantavirus situation in France is under control. Today, the French government certainly has one of the most demanding protocols, like Spain and a few other countries, which is a good thing because we have the experience of the past, he declared. At the same time, Health Minister Stephanie Rist held a press conference on Tuesday evening, confirming that the French patient infected with hantavirus aboard the cruise ship MV Hantavirus remains in intensive care in a critical condition as of Tuesday afternoon. Meeting between the health minister and the unions of health professions, followed by a meeting with her European counterparts. Stephanie Rist will join a video conference at 8:30 a.m. with the independent unions and the orders of medical and pharmaceutical professions to assess the hantavirus situation, according to her ministry. At 4:30 p.m., she will convene a coordination meeting with her European counterparts at the request of Sébastien Lecornu. The contact case hospitalized in Rennes is being transferred to the Bichat Hospital in Paris. One of the 22 French contact cases identified on board the MV Hantavirus, who was admitted to the University Hospital of Rennes on Monday the 11th of May, is being transferred to Bichat Hospital in Paris on Tuesday evening, as reported by ICI Brige Isol from a source close to the file. The health minister gave an update on the hantavirus situation on Tuesday evening. Stephanie Rist, an infectious disease specialist, answered journalists' questions on Tuesday the 12th of May. They discussed case detection, the French woman currently in intensive care, the identified contact cases in isolation, the type of virus and possible treatments. This article reports the official statements of the French government on the management of the hantavirus epidemic in May 2026. Fact-checked by GPT-All 20B. Jordan Bardella reacts to Kylian Mbappé as comments, worried about a national rally victory in 2027. National Rally RN leader Jordan Bardella responded with a barb on Tuesday the 12th of May to comments from France's football captain Kylian Mbappé, who expressed concern about a possible RN win in the next presidential election. In an extended interview with Vanity Fair, the footballer reiterated his opposition to the Le Pen party, emphasizing his role as a citizen and refusing the idea that a player should simply play and stay silent. My heart sinks. I know what it means and what consequences it could have for our country when people like them come to power, Mbappé said when asked about a potential RN electoral victory in 2027. In reply, Jordan Bardella, a possible presidential candidate who could replace Marine Le Pen and who leads the polls, posted on X, "And I know what happens when Kylian Mbappé leaves PSG. The club wins the Champions League. And maybe a second time." The comment mocked the footballer, who left Paris Saint-Germain at the start of last season. After numerous unsuccessful attempts, PSG captured the Champions League last year and is aiming for a double in the final on the 30th of May 2026 in Budapest. Article sourced from France Info, published the 12th of May 2026. Fact-checked by GPT-All 20B. Good morning from Paris. I am Rachel Costa. I will now read my editorial. Editorial by Rachel, the billionaire's quip, when silence is worth more than a goal. We are back in the French media circus, where footballers suddenly become political analysts, and leaders answer, not with a club, but with a dry joke. Kylian Mbappé, from his golden Olympus, reminds us that a possible national rally victory in 2027 would hit him deeply, because he knows what happens when people like them come to power. A multi-billionaire with a non-homie surname worries about the soul of France. Touching, isn't it? Jordan Bardella, instead of taking the podium or invoking apocalypse, chose the route of surgical irony on X. And I know what happens when Kylian Mbappé leaves PSG. The club wins the Champions League. Low blow, elegant, and above all effective. A reminder that in football, as in politics, sometimes those who leave create more space than they think. The most amusing part is the contrast of styles. On one side, the diva who refuses to stay silent because he is also a citizen. On the other side, the politician who, instead of getting angry, smiles crookedly and tells him that his on-field choices have had more concrete consequences than countless Vanity Fair interviews. Perhaps that is the point. In a country tired of top-down preaching, a little irony disarms more than 1,000 outraged editorials. In the end, the French will vote as they wish. And if they decide to try people like them, neither Mbappé's goals nor the warnings of stars will stop them. Democracy is like that. Sometimes it sides with you. Sometimes it leaves you out in the cold, like a coach who decides to change formation. Koan of the day. A monk asked the master, "Why does a rich man who earned everything chasing a ball feel the duty to teach the people how to choose their leaders?" The master replied, "Because he fears the people will choose without him." The monk pressed, "And the one who is mocked for this, who answers with a joke instead of anger, is he enlightened?" "It's answered with lightness, because he does not need to convince," said the master. "He who shouts needs you to believe him. He who laughs already knows what will happen when he is no longer there." Now back to the news. VPN in the crosshairs, the EU surveillance architecture is completed. A series of initiatives from the von der Leyen Commission aim at universal preventative surveillance under the pretext of protecting minors, all while bypassing democratic oversight. The children pretext. Protecting children on the internet has become the structural refrain of the second von der Leyen Commission. The president has made online safety for minors one of her declared priorities, translating it into systematic pressure for mandatory age verification on platforms. The Digital Services Act and its ancillary rules carry the direct imprint. The argument that VPNs are tools to evade that verification was debunked almost in real time by the community note attached to the European Parliament posts. According to a University of Michigan study, 82.1% of users employ VPNs to protect themselves from cyber threats. Journalists also use them to leave no trace when investigating hot dossiers. There is no research documenting a supposed explosion of adolescent VPN use for accessing prohibited content. The pretext is a badly cut garment, the Brussels app. Alongside the anti-VPN note, the Commission announced a new European age verification app ready for large-scale deployment. The message is simple. VPNs hinder centralized verification, therefore VPNs are a problem to solve. The solution is an app managed by European institutions, which by definition does not block any institutional verification. No democratic control. Last week, the European Commission and Japan signed a cooperation agreement on online platform regulation. The declared purpose is technical, almost neutral, transparency, notification and action mechanisms, expert dialogues, joint trainings. Similar agreements have already been signed with the United Kingdom and Australia. Authorities have launched a joint working group on age verification, creating an international convergence of moderation rules, exported through non-binding administrative accords that sidestep democratic oversight. The trajectory is clear. Today's notice is tomorrow's automated removal infrastructure. Age verification, sold as child protection, will become the tool through which online anonymity becomes the exception, then the suspicion. France, the paradise of leaks. In France, the report of the Parliamentary Delegation for Intelligence, filed at the end of 2025 and made public in April, is the most explicit document so far produced by a Western institution on this ground. 60 to 80% of communications, Telegram, WhatsApp, etc., travel on end-to-end encrypted channels, making mass interception difficult or impossible. The proposed solution: mandatory backdoors. The delegation describes European jurisprudence as detached from technical and operational realities. Human infiltration is judged too costly. The logic is that of universal preventative surveillance. It is cheaper to watch everyone than only the suspects. The leak paradise. While seeking more access to encrypted data and broader collection infrastructure, France is labeled in cybersecurity forums as a leak paradise. Public e-data, university housing data, and internal public service data circulate freely online. The latest breach in April 2026 involved health data of 12 million French citizens. A universal model. The French report does not mention structural fragility. Instead, it calls for expansion. These initiatives share a common structure. A universal model, a cold mechanic observable across jurisdictions simultaneously. In the United Kingdom, the Online Safety Act and Section 127 of the Communications Act now imprison ordinary women for videos posted on social media without any extremist profile. In the United States, the Patriot Act allowed the FBI to use national security letters more than 200,000 times between 2004 and 2009 for matters unrelated to terrorism. Mass metadata collection has not prevented a single attack. The choreography always follows 4 steps: a crisis, real or amplified; an extraordinary law sold as temporary and targeted; progressively broader use beyond the original target; a cosmetic reform that removes nothing. Surveillance or punishment tools once obtained are never returned by the powers that hold them. The pretexts renew: terrorism, child protection, immigration, but the direction remains unchanged. Exceptional measures become the norm. Freedoms recede a step each cycle. Criminals adapt faster than bureaucracies. The emerging picture is not of institutions protecting citizens, but of institutions equipping themselves to manage citizens better. We are not witnessing regulation, but the administrative and international deployment of a permanent public speech filtering infrastructure, whose parameters will be set in technical meetings, without ever consulting the electorate on the principle. This article analyses recent EU proposals on digital surveillance and their implications for European citizens. Privacy. It is taken from Atlantico Quotidiano. Fact check by GPTOS20B. French Press Review. Welcome to the French Press Review. From Paris, I am Rachel Costa. Le Monde. Trump and China, a meeting of powers. United States President Donald Trump announced his imminent visit to Beijing, the first since 2017, with a stated goal of strengthening commercial ties. In a press conference, he emphasized the need to dialogue with Chinese leader Xi Jinping on trade and security issues. Analysts described the meeting as a, quote, geopolitical gamble, with potential impacts on tariffs and technology. The trip will be accompanied by executives from Apple, Boeing, and Tesla, marking a significant step in American foreign policy. International reactions are mixed, with the European Union watching cautiously. France Info, Hantavirus, the situation is under control. The French government, led by Emmanuel Macron, reported that Hantavirus spread is under control. A French patient in critical condition was discharged from intensive care, while authorities have tightened quarantine protocols. Health Minister Stephanie Rist announced a press conference to update the public on identified cases and containment measures. Public health centers have intensified testing of recent travelers from risk areas, reducing national concern. The swift response avoided a health panic. Another of Trump's cotton-to-the-point moves, announcing a visit to China as if it were a gadget fair, hoping that a few selfies with Xi will solve the issue of workers caught by the pandemic. Meanwhile, the Hantavirus, said to be under control, remains so only until we find another table to occupy. A little propaganda does not hurt, but America and Europe are no longer that naive. France Info. Fuel tax cuts shake national finances. The first week of May showed a 30% drop in fuel consumption, causing a loss of €300 million in tax revenue. Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu launched a parliamentary mission to investigate the real causes of the soaring value-added tax on energy supplies. Parliamentarians, led by Philippe Brun, will examine the role of oil companies and distributors in setting final prices. The debate is part of a broader context of fiscal reforms and environmental policies. Authorities aim for greater transparency to avoid unnecessary flash missions. BFM Urenco, European leader in explosive powders, plans to triple production. French group Urenco announced its intention to triple ammunition production by 2029, increasing its workforce from 900 to 1,700 employees over 3 years. The expansion is driven by rising demand for ammunition in Europe and the need to replace obsolete stocks. However, one of its factories is currently on strike over a wage increase request of €130. Management has pledged dialogue with unions to prevent supply chain disruptions. The project is considered crucial for European defense security. France Info: Emmanuel Macron announces €23 billion of investments in Africa. The French president declared a €23 billion investment plan for infrastructure and technology projects in Africa. €14 billion will come from the private sector, focusing on renewable energy, telecommunications, and transport. The goal is to strengthen France's presence on the continent and support local economic growth. Authorities emphasize that the investments will involve public-private partnerships to ensure long-term sustainability. The initiative has been welcomed by African nations as a shared development opportunity. BFM CAC 40 falls below 8,000 points. Tension between U.S. inflation and Middle East conflicts. France's main stock index dropped below 8,000 points, influenced by rising consumer prices in the United States and geopolitical uncertainties in the Middle East. Analysts noted that the combination of American inflation and tensions in the Strait of Hormuz weighs on investor sentiment. Some sectors, such as energy and aerospace, showed modest resilience, while banking faced pressure. Forecasts indicate continued volatility until a clearer resolution of international conflicts emerges. BFM IMF economist encourages fiscal prudence in France. Pierre-Olivier Gourinchas, chief economist of the International Monetary Fund, described France's fiscal policies aimed at containing public spending amid the energy crisis as a good direction. In an interview, he stressed the importance of maintaining budget discipline to ensure macroeconomic stability. The IMF remains supportive of targeted stimulus measures, but warns against excessive spending that could enlarge debt. The remarks reassured markets while urging further structural reforms. BFM: Moderna advances a Hantavirus vaccine. Moderna announced a new vaccine candidate against hantavirus, developed in collaboration with the United States Department of Defense. The preclinical phase showed a promising immune response, with a 12% increase in antibody activity in primary studies. The company plans to start clinical trials by the end of the year, targeting possible approval by 2028. Experts believe an effective vaccine could dramatically reduce future outbreaks. BFM: U.S. inflation at 3.8%, highest peak in 3 years. The United States Bureau of Labor Statistics reported an inflation rate of 3.8% for the previous month, the highest level since 2023. The rise is driven by energy costs and consumer goods prices. The Federal Reserve is considering a possible interest rate hike to contain inflationary pressure. Market analysts fear that a delayed response could trigger a broader price spiral, impacting global economies. BFM: Keir Starmer under pressure over party crisis. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer faces a growing wave of resignations within the Labour Party. Recent dismissals of 4 ministers have fueled calls for stronger leadership. Internal party discussions reveal a heated debate over electoral strategy and the ability to counter the opposition. Political observers note that Starmer's stability will depend on his skill in uniting the party's diverse factions before the next election. BFM: Trump's Golden Dome project, a $1.2 trillion proposal. The Golden Dome project, proposed by former President Donald Trump, envisions a missile defense system costing an estimated $1.2 trillion over 20 years. A congressional report highlighted that the project could cost up to 7 times the initially projected budget. Defense experts have raised doubts about the technical feasibility and strategic necessity of such an investment. Political debate has intensified, with critics labeling the plan a unnecessary expense. BFM: Bitcoin. Analyst predicts price above $98,000. A well-known cryptocurrency market analyst suggested that Bitcoin's price should exceed $98,000 to enter a new long-term bullish trend. The forecast is based on 6 consecutive weeks of growth and increasing corporate adoption of blockchain technologies. Some experts remain skeptical, pointing to the market's intrinsic volatility. The crypto community watches developments closely to assess the robustness of these projections. Weather in Paris and Milan for Wednesday, the 13th of May, 2026. Paris: cloudy with scattered rain. The forecast, updated by meteorologist Regis Crepé, was issued at 3:30 and has good reliability. In the morning, the temperature will be 11 degrees, felt 10, with a very cloudy sky and brief sunshine. Wind from the west at 45 kilometers per hour. In the afternoon, the thermometer rises to 15 degrees, felt 14. The sky remains very cloudy, and clouds will vary with scattered rain toward the end of the day and a 90% chance of precipitation. Wind increases to 55 kilometers per hour from the west. In the evening, it drops to 11 degrees, felt 8. The sky stays very cloudy, but showers lessen, with a 75% chance of rain and west winds at 55 kilometers per hour. Overnight, the temperature falls to 8 degrees, felt 5. The sky becomes variable, then very cloudy without further precipitation, and winds calm to 40 kilometers per hour from the west. In summary, low 8, high 15, prevailing west winds, rain concentrated mainly in the late afternoon. Milan, clear and stable with rising temperatures. According to the bulletin updated by meteorologist Daniele Berlusconi of 3B Meteo, published at 7:11 with 95% reliability, the morning starts at 13 degrees, felt 14. A very cloudy but dry sky and light north wind at 8 kilometers per hour. During the morning, the sky remains cloudy and temperatures gradually rise, reaching 20 degrees in the afternoon, with a weak wind shifting from northeast to east-southeast at 8 to 9 kilometers per hour and no rain. The afternoon features stable conditions, maximum temperatures around 20, skies moving toward clearer, and light east-southeast winds. In the evening, the thermometer falls to 15, the sky is lightly clouded, and wind stays gentle from south-southeast at 5 to 6 kilometers per hour, without rain. During the night, the low drops to 13, the sky is clear, wind is calm from south-southeast at 4 kilometers per hour, and no precipitation is expected. In summary, low 13, high 20, light winds mainly from northeast to south-southeast, dry conditions all day. Rachel, weather editorial, when the sky is always to blame. It is truly astonishing how every cloud, every light gust, is immediately blamed on climate change, as if an afternoon rain in Paris were the definitive proof of the inevitable end of the world. Then we ask, why does the wind blow so hard from the west? Why shouldn't we simply put on a coat and leave instead of turning every drop into an ecological drama? I also wonder why every political candidate, at the smallest debate, cites a 13-degree temperature in Milan as if it were a prophetic sign. It is almost comic to see the public worrying more about who will blame the planet's future for a light rain than about what to pack for the day. Perhaps that is the real spectacle. Meteorology turned into a stage for exaggerated fears. Koan of the day. The monk asked Zhaojul, if the sky is cloudy in Paris and clear in Milan, which city is at greater risk of rain? Zhaojul answered, the horse that cannot run may wonder whether the rain is lighter or wetter, but it will never find an answer without moving. And that is today's weather. Closing. Online, on X and Mastodon, on all smart speakers, and on the medium wave band. This is France Today with Central Milan, 1575 kHz.